Today we're taking you to Fort Langley, a quaint, historic Canadian town full of a rich tapestry of Canadian history.
It's more than 300 years old. It's the oldest company in Canada.
Oh my goodness!
1892, 1874.
You will hear some old tales from the past.
Prince Elizabeth and Prince Philip passed through Fort Langley.
And this is the old station. She was the very first war bride to step in Fort Langley in 1946. We are Steve and Az, and welcome to Old Living. Welcome to Fort Langley, guys. So this river here, you guys can see, it's the Fraser River. On this side is Fort Camping, where we stay. There is quite a good beach going all the way up.
There's a boat down there in the distance that you can see.
And we are gonna cross the bridge. We go to downtown Fort Langley. We haven't been long on the bridge and we can already see the beginning of Fort Langley downtown, I believe.
Kind of reminds me of one of the places, I think it may have been Henley-on-Thames in England. But instead of the British flags, you have Canadian flags in the distance there.
The history of Fort Langley starts in the 1800s with the Hudson's Bay Company, which was a fur company back then. And nowadays it's just one of the largest companies in Canada.
It's a department store now.
Yes,
Hudson's Bay Company, or at least it's named after the Hudson Bay Company.
It's the same company.
Oh really? Wow.
Yes, it's more than 300 years old. It's the oldest company in Canada. So every time I see the Hudson's Bay now, I will think of the history.
We arrived.
We have arrived. So this is kind of the outpost of the town. And just at the beginning, you've got Fort Pub and Grill. What?
So we made it to downtown. You have some buildings, you don't know if they are historical or made to look historical.
And that must be a historical building over there.
Oh, for sure.
It's falling down.
I feel a little guilty standing right next to the road when you're filming because people stop for you here in Canada. So this is the train that keeps us up at night sometime, making a huge noise.
I'll be a warm place to lay when you're feeling cold, and I'll be all in when you wanna fold. When we're dancing life's dance, you'll be the partner I hold. You and me together.
Prince Elizabeth and Prince Philip passed through Fort Langley, but I think it was this old track. Look here. I think it was this piece of track.
Oh, so
here.
This is the track they had before.
This is the track for the real old station, I believe.
Yes.
And then there is the new track.
And this is the old station.
Yeah, this is the old station.
Very cool. Okay, before they used to build with wood, what do they build railways with now?
Wood.
Wood?
Yeah.
Do you think?
There
That doesn't seem like wood, it seems like concrete or something else.
Oh, maybe it's concrete.
When you're mourning, I'll mourn for your sadness and pain. When you're happy, you'll put a smile on my face. I won't be perfect, but I promise.
Oh, there is a train here, but this one doesn't run any longer. It's here just as memory of the past.
Here is the old train station. So here is a train. Wow. CNR serves all Canada.
Do you feel a little nostalgic? I do.
How does it feel like to see the country as you travel on a railway?
Amazing. Wait for my ladders.
If it means we both laugh, the unaware bunny-eared man in the photograph, I'd give the whole of my heart. If it means you get half, darling, please.
This picture was taken in 1946. This is Lois Cross and her husband. She was the very first war bride to step in Fort Langley in 1946. This was a long while ago. I don't know if this board is original, but it gives you an idea of roughly what it looked like back then when people were waiting for their trains and they had their tickets in hand. So this is a story about kissing at train stations, according to the sign. In 1920, kissing in public was not done, except in train stations. Young couples used to sit in their big waiting room of the CNR station of the main street in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and wait for a train to depart. Then they would go to the bottom of the stairs leading to the platform and kiss and hug goodbye. After a few minutes, they returned to the waiting room to wait for the next train to leave. Since lots of trains ran every day in the 1920s, this was a good strategy.
And this is the modern trains line.
Not as charming, but it does the job.
You're right, it's concrete.
Downtown Fort Langley really reminds me a little bit of downtown Vancouver and a little bit of Vancouver Island too. During the gold rush times, Fort Langley had an influx of settlers and all sorts of people because of course there is a river here and people were gold digging.
I think it was about 1847 or something.
Something like that. So that's Fort Langley's community hall.
And that's built in 1931.
Oh, that goes far back.
Wow.
I wouldn't mind having a house that looks exactly like this. We have a terrible habit of waiting till the sun is almost going down to go film. That's why a lot of our footage is grainy. So now we are racing against the clock to get as much as we can of this beautiful town in daylight.
Before golden hour ends.
Yes. Sometimes I feel forced to cross, even though I don't want to cross the road, because the drivers stop for you, and sometimes I just want to film. So I'm like, since you stopped, let's cross. We are facing some beautiful houses, and I must say I have a thing for houses.
Actually, this is a church. If you look
church
at the
bell
bell on the top.
Oh, that's so cute.
Oh my goodness!
What is this? It's not a house.
It's now a company, but it
office.
was a house one day, I think.
Oh, this is the most beautiful thing I've seen in my life. For graveyard, this is beautiful.
Yeah,
Do you think
it's
we can get
beautiful
in?
Graveyard, but look at the blossoms.
Do you think we can get in?
I don't like going into graveyards.
It brings perspective to life, you know? Imagine working just across a graveyard like this. Got a little bit carried away with filming the houses. We need to head back to the downtown where the action is.
But Nuyara wants to look at the graveyard, so...
Don't judge me.
October 28, 1892. Look at that, guys. Some of these are hard to see because of the moss. 1922, 1941, 1874.
This place here you can see from the outside, and this is in memory of all the soldiers from the Langley district that died in the Great War of 1914 till 1918.
Yeah, it's quite a bustling little town.
So many cars driving by, so many people walking. It's amazing.
It's got a lot of character.
True.
Oh wow, these are fancy. These ones you can actually wave.
Canada is full of these banners here. Each city or town, sometimes even neighborhood, has a different one.
Very sweet little town, this. I think this is probably the sweetest little town we've seen in Canada. Over there you've got the Country Lane Antiques, Rempel Mercantile, Gardening Centre, 50s Diner, and then look at that little cute little church down there. It's closed though. It's even got this aluminium type seats around the counter. Oh wow, and even those seating areas, pretty cool. If only it was open.
It reminds me of the Back to the Future diner, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of Back to the Future style. It could have almost been filmed here.
Yes.
But the jasmine smells beautiful.
It smells like perfume.
It smells really good.
This reminds me of those old candy stores you see on movies. Doesn't it? It's beautiful.
So this is chocolate candy and confectionaries. Lots of sweets in there. Push, push. It's locked. It's a sign.
This time. And I don't even like candy. I like some candy. I don't have a sweet tooth. Stephen does.
So this is John Walter Berry. So John Walter Berry, his wife Lydia, and their first 2 children moved to Langley in 1897 from Ontario. JW is also known as Jack, and he came to join his friend David Moss Coulter to buy the general stores in Murrayville and Fort Langley. The Berrys ran the general store at Murray's Corners for several years before starting up the Belmont Dairy Farm. Jack served the community as chair of the school board, president of the Fraser Valley Milk Producers Association. Jack and Lydia are buried side by side in Murrayville Cemetery. This is a mason jar store, Naz.
Ever thought you would see a mason jar store? I've seen them in the supermarkets, but not a whole store of them. An interesting fact about mason jars, if you're not from the US or Canada, is that candy is part of the history of the 2 countries.
The homesteaders would, canning was big, so preserving food, that's a big thing in the early pioneer history, even to this day with homesteaders, modern day homesteaders.
And people even use them for water glasses and you name it.
This island seems to have 2 names.
Years and years ago, there were 2 islands divided by a very narrow stream, Bray Island and Macmillan. The stream was gone after the bridge was built. Now you had 1 island instead of 2. Some people call it Bray Island, some people call it Macmillan Island, and I guess it has to do with which side of the island you are stepping on. In the island there is a First Nation community that, forgive me if I pronounce it wrongly, but I will try, Kwantlen First Nation.
But here we can see women and children in a dugout canoe in the Fraser Valley in about 1890. And then down here we've got Hudson Bay Company, Fort Langley. And here you can see a Hudson Bay post, about 1862. Street scene at Fort Langley in the 1900s. You can see the horse and carriages, people in their bowler hats. And then in 1930, still looking very quaint, like a little farming community. First written account of European contacting Langley dates from 1808, when Simon Fraser, explorer and employee of the Northwest Trading Company, traveled down the river that would eventually receive his name. Fraser recorded seeing a large village with cedar plank longhouses on the riverbank near present-day Langley. Oh wow, look at the mountains down there. You can see the mountains with snow on.
Time to go back to the van now.
And fill our tummies after lots of walking. Good to eat.
Got all the calories back.
It's great to have your little home that you can take with you wherever, because you know, you can go back and everything's there. There's a campsite right next to town called Fort Camping.
That's the road that comes from the bridge. You turn here to go to Fort Camping and down there to the Indigenous Reserve. Yeah.